Okay, hello everyone. Hello. I'm Chimoge, and this is Chimoge's Comments America. Thank you for joining me. Please like this stream and share it with people you know. Please also subscribe to the channel. And then if you're watching this in the future on a recording, welcome as well. Please like the video and share it. This is my weekly Sunday stream on this channel, although I know it's happening at technically what is Monday now because it's after midnight. I do them every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time plus African time, and tonight the African time has taken us past midnight. It is what it is. Obviously I'm going to be quick today, but I did want to get to you. I didn't do it last week because Mercury was in retrograde, and I don't live stream while Mercury's in retrograde. I just don't want to deal with any technical problems. But now that that's over, I'm back. And today I'm just going to be doing a quick commentary reaction to a video. But before that, as always, I'm going to wait and give people a chance to get on the stream. So I'm either going to wait 4 minutes or until I get 4 likes. That's 4 minutes or until I get 4 likes. So I'm going to start chilling now, play some music for y'all, and see you back again on the other side. Let's get this music. right. Time's up. I'm gonna go ahead and begin. So today I'm gonna be doing a reaction to this video from CBS News. It was posted 3 months ago. It was about a measure that the Texas Republicans passed that both didn't accept the results of the last presidential election, and it maintained their right to secede from the US. So obviously that's very in line with the themes of this channel. We know the looming civil war, as well as uh, you know, electoral politics are both two of the three major themes of this channel, right? So I'm gonna share my screen so y'all can see what I'm seeing. And then we're gonna go ahead and begin. Okay.
Ads with repetition. Bundle and save with Liberty Mutual.
Bundle and save with Liberty Mutual.
The party in Texas has agreed to a new resolution that shifts the party's platform even further to the right.
Yeah, that's right. It was voted on over the weekend at the Texas GOP convention in Houston. And the new platform it's a lot. I'll give you the whole rundown here. It includes a rejection of President Biden's win in the 2020 election. It also rebukes Republican Senator John Cornyn.
Okay, so let me just stop it here and take a look at the measures they highlighted. So rejected the 2020 election results. So that's big because this is more evidence how the lower tribe whites in this country want to take power by any means. They don't want to share power with the higher tribe whites at all. That's why they're rejecting the election results, even though there's no real proof that that election was rigged. Obviously, occasionally U.S. history, there has been some funny business with elections, but that even those cases where it happened, it was kind of slight. And it's when the margins were real close. The U.S. has never really, there's never really been a time where they've gone full, like, where they've done what they do in like developing countries where they just completely rig it. Like 80% of people vote for one candidate, the other candidate wins. It's never been that extreme. The instances where there has been some rigging has been stuff like, maybe there's a difference of 1% and they shift it one way in certain states, or maybe one candidate genuinely won the election, but then they exaggerate what percentage of the popular vote they won. You could even have stuff like, of course, there's the infamous Bush v. Gore, right, where the Supreme Court just came in and went one way. So you have stuff like that, but it's always kind of close to the margins. And this particular election, there was really no evidence that there was any rigging that would have made Biden won. Like, it looks like Biden won fair and square. I know they did do some funny business, because I do know for a fact that they threw out certain write-in ballots in Maryland. Because I remember I voted actually for Kanye West. And I'll do some videos explaining what that was all about, because I'm not, a Kanye fan at the moment. Didn't do it because I just love the guy, right? But I'll explain that thought process. But long story short, I know I voted for him, but then on the news later, I saw them saying that Kanye didn't get a single vote in Maryland. I'm like, I voted for him, so looks like they threw out some ballots. But regardless, that kind of stuff wasn't going to affect the result of the election, because Biden still won. So really, I think the claim that the 2020 election was rigged, I think is, at best, it's what do I want to say? I think at best it's a little inconsistent, because if this one was rigged, then there's probably a bunch of others that were rigged that they didn't call out, right? Because there's no different evidence for this one that would make you think, oh, it was definitely rigged. And at worst, it's just ridiculous because probably there was nothing like that, right? But regardless of that, the whole reason they're rejecting the results anyway is because they want to make it clear, the lower tribe whites, that, and of course Texas is a state dominated by lower tribe whites, dominated in the sense that they're the majority of people who live there, right? They're still oppressed by the Northeast, the Puritans. Let me be specific, right? But they're the majority population there. And then they're, of course, the majority population in the Republican Party, which is, I'll say dominant in the state, and dominating the state, but dominant with quotes, because it's like they rule it, but they still kind of have to bend to the Puritans, which is the whole reason they want to secede anyway, right? Because they're tired of that arrangement. But anyway, what this is doing is just saying that we want power by any means. We want to be in power no matter what. We will not accept any arrangement where the higher tribe whites, the Puritans, and their allies rule over us. So that's why they're rejecting the 2020 election results. And going forward, this is a real concerning, because it's looking like in 2024, if Trump doesn't win, or whoever the Republican nominee is, or just whoever is running against the Democrats, if those people don't win, it looks like they're just not going to accept the election results. And that's when you could have the explosion, right? 1861 part 2. So that is real concerning. Again, you can understand their frustration. I think the lower tribe whites absolutely have valid grievances against the higher tribe whites, but I don't think this is the way to go about getting what they want, because there's a much more peaceful way of going about it. Not that this is over violence, it's not, but you can see how easily it'll lead to that. They could do a much less confrontational, and a much less upsetting. I guess they could use tactics that don't upset their opposition as much and still get what they want, right? So that's the first point. The second point here is the repeal of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And what that does, of course, is it basically takes away Black people's right to vote in the state. And that's big, because the only way that Democrats have a chance in any national elections, or in the elections in any swing states, and Texas has basically become a swing state, is by getting Black people to vote for them. Black people and other non-whites, right? But especially Black people. And if that doesn't happen, the Republicans got a guaranteed win. So this is just them guaranteeing that they will win the next election. Unless of course there is some rigging, but I don't think, I don't know if we've reached the point where things would be rigged crazy enough where if the Republicans won the landslide, they'll be switched. I don't know if that's a tactic the Democrats will take. Probably isn't. But barring some crazy scenario like that, this is them guaranteeing they win the election. The third point is they are opposing efforts to validate transgender identity. This is basically them sticking it to the liberals, and then also asserting control over their culture, because they view the liberal higher tribe whites' new views on gender and gender identity that advocates for rights for transgender people. They view that as cultural, I I guess, a suppression of their culture, and they view it as a situation where their enemies, the higher tribe whites, are forcing their culture upon them. So that's the big reason they're resisting that. There are some other things that's deeper, but I'll talk about that in the future. I don't want to dwell on that so much in this video because I'm still thinking of the best way to fully explain that and figure out even exactly what's going on. But the big thing there, at least one of the big things, and the one I understand the best, is that this is a cultural imposition in their view that they don't like. So that's what that is. And then the fourth one, which is kind of related to that, is demolishing the Department of Education. So what that is they don't like the Department of Education, because what the Department of Education is essentially, it's the Puritans indoctrinating their children, because the U.S. education system indoctrinates kids of all races, tribes, whatever, to believe what the Puritans want them to believe. And, the lower tribe whites in Texas don't like that. So they want to get rid of the Department of Education so that they don't have that problem to deal with. And then they can just educate their own kids themselves. Because the Department of Education makes it hard for them to do that with their laws on how to educate children. So it makes it hard to homeschool, and it forces you to teach certain things to your kids that the lower tribe whites wouldn't necessarily like. They just don't want anyone telling them what to do in that regard. So that's what all this is about. So basically, this platform, and of course, they're going to talk more about it, but just looking at those four things, this is as close as you can get to a declaration of war without actually declaring war, because they're basically saying to the higher tribe whites, F you and everything you stand for and everything you're trying to do and all your attempts to rule over us or even share power. We just don't mess with you. That's what they're saying. That's what this is. So let's keep watching.
And his bipartisan efforts on gun legislation, and it calls for the Voting Rights Act of 1965 to be repealed. It goes on to agree to, quote, oppose all efforts to validate transgender identity, and calls homosexuality a, quote, abnormal life choice, close quote. On top of that, it supports demolishing the Department of Education and promotes teaching students about what it calls humanity of the preborn child.
CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns joins us now from the White House. Hi, Caitlin. So, these are not new issues. And for some on the far right, these have been, talking points for a while. But now it seems that there are enough in the Republican Party in Texas that also share some of these beliefs that it's now becoming their official stance, at least in Texas. So we know Texas is a red state, but how big of a shift does this signal for the party overall? Is there a chance this Texas platform could become the national GOP stance anytime soon?
Well, Tanya, we have seen this view, this false view, questioning the 2020 election, really seeping into wide swaths of the Republican Party. We've watched over the past couple of months and seen that candidates running for federal, state, and local offices talking about these false claims about the election, actually getting elected or getting nominated, I should say, for the party in positions that could potentially have them in places where they are overseeing elections in some cases. Here you have the Republican Party of Texas adopting this as a policy platform, as part of their platform. And you could, dismiss some of this as, far out, fringe kinds of ideas, but they're not if they are included in a state party platform. And this is a kind of situation where, it is significant that John Cornyn spoke there over the weekend, because that shows that this isn't some kind of, small little group that is politically related. This is the Republican Party of Texas. Texas. And you have the sitting U.S. senators from Texas and prominent members of the party coming to speak to this particular event. Shows the legitimacy of this group, of course, within the Republican Party. So we're not only seeing it in candidates running for office and getting nominated into positions in these primaries, but now we're starting to see the party adopt it into its platform at the state level. Now,
okay, I just want to stop there. I thought she might have given a more national break, but she didn't. But that's fine. Stopping now. But she's absolutely right in what she was saying there. You know, the fact that this is the Republican Party putting forward this platform, and the fact that the sitting senators from Texas were there and other prominent Republican politicians were there, shows that this is not fringe at all. This is mainstream. And if things have gotten to the point where the Republican establishment in Texas has approved this kind of platform, you know that the masses of people in Texas are for this and have been for this, right? And then you're even going to have significant minorities of people, large minorities of people that are for doing stuff that's even more extreme than this. So, you know, going forward, I would expect the people of Texas to really be pushing back strongly against what the Puritans and their allies want. And, you know, they could, you know, it's even really possible that Texas could be one of the people who kicks off, one of the states that actually kicks off the Civil War. They might be one of the first to try and secede, something like that. They're probably going to be, you know, leading the charge against the Puritans and trying to change the political order in the U.S. So, you know, that's obviously concerning, just because, again, if things explode like that, there's a huge potential for violence, a lot of suffering, a lot of chaos. Because, again, these people, neither side of this fight has shown themselves to be calm and level-headed. They kind of take a shoot first, ask questions later approach. So it's very concerning. The other thing I want to highlight is they mentioned abortion earlier, because part of the platform was opposing abortion. Even there, it says that, you know, the platform promotes pro-life beliefs and teachings. That's also important because the abortion fight is actually at the heart of this conflict, because the higher tribe whites, the Puritans, the so-called liberals, they promote abortion because they want to keep the population down. That's the main reason they do it, both because they want to keep the population down and they want more women to enter the workforce so that they have more workers and can also make society overall more masculine, because the workforce we have in the West is a masculine workforce, because there's different ways of doing work. There's a masculine way and a feminine way. We only do the masculine way in the West. They don't do the feminine way at all. And there's a reason for that. Basically, that's the you know, you have to be as masculine as possible if you want to oppress large groups of people. So that's what's going on there. And I'll might go into that here, or I might just do it on the regular Chimoge's Comments channel. But it's somehow I'm gonna go into that in more detail. But basically, long story short, and also that does also go into lowering the population, because the way the workforce is, the more women work, the less kids they have. Long story short, because the Puritans' whole thing is ruling as a minority, it's best for them to keep the populations of the groups they're oppressing as small as possible, because it makes it easiest for them to manage. So that's why they're obsessed with population control and lowering the population through abortion. The lower tribe whites, on the other hand, Well, they do want to lower the populations of non-whites. They want their own population to grow, which is why they're against abortion, because obviously every baby that gets aborted is, a potential person that's not there, a potential person that can't grow up and add numbers to your political group. So that's why they fight so hard against that, because they just don't want their population to shrink like that. So yeah, that's a really key thing, because since the Puritans have more money than the lower tribe whites, the lower tribe whites' biggest asset they have that they can use against the Puritans is actually their population. So that's why they fight so hard about this abortion thing, because they know it's key to deciding who's going to win this war. But yeah, let's go on.
It is not clear whether this would, be adopted at other states. But what we are seeing in the states is this effort to really, roll back or curb voting access. And Texas, of course, was ground zero for that this cycle.
So this is now the official platform of the Republican Party in Texas, but it's a little bit of a slippery concept, because it's not like everyone who's a Republican in Texas stands up and swears to it. It's not like they print it out and tape it up next to their computer all day when they work. So the key question is how much of it is symbolism and how much of it actually affects the business of governance. And so to get specific on that question, Senator John Cornyn, as you mentioned, he's got these bipartisan efforts to come to some sort of an agreement on gun legislation to sort of ease the burden of mass shootings in this country. Now he's being called out specifically in this platform. Could that stop him from completing these efforts in Congress?
Well, if you were someone like Cornyn and you've had a very successful run for statewide offices, you know the politics in your state really well. And that's why he's been working in this group to kind of tout the things that Republicans were able to keep out of the bill. And he's been really trying to message this as something that does not infringe upon Second Amendment rights. So it is significant that he was booed. But whether it's a deterrent, Cornyn is still part of these talks.
Just one other thing I want to highlight here. The fact that these Republican senators were there does show that, overall the Republican Party, at least most of the people in the party, are really serious about doing this. And certainly like the masses of Texan people, the masses of white people in Texas are serious about this. But at the same time, some of those Republican senators and other political leaders who are part of the Republican establishment, or at least kind of in bed with it. I don't know specifically how radical John Cornyn is, whether he's closer to the center of the Republican Party, the establishment, or Trump. But regardless of that, just the fact that he's a senator, one of the most elite political positions in the country, lets you know that part of his job is to kind of moderate and cool down things like this, where the masses are really getting riled up and they want to rebel. So he either he's not really with them, but he just has to do this to stay in power, and then he's gonna try his best to moderate it, or he himself just genuinely believes in a lot of what they're saying, but not quite to the extent they do. So he wants to propose a more moderate solution. But whichever those two it is, the way it ends up working is that he'll kind of hold them back a bit. And that's probably why he got booed, like this lady said, because the masses of the lower tribe whites really want to revolt. They got the fire in their veins, all that, and this guy's kind of like, eh. And I suspect that maybe in the past he's kind of been more moderate than they wanted him to be, so that's why he'd be getting booed. So you also have to keep in mind when analyzing this situation, those kind of internal internal Republican Party dynamics and things that go on. Let's finish out the video.
They are still, they talked over the weekend. They are still making progress getting towards some kind of legislation, even though they had trouble last week. But Cornyn is not up for re-election for a while. We are in the middle of primaries, so it could be difficult for others, but proceeding with those talks as far as we know.
All right, Caitlin Huey Burns. Caitlin, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, that's the end of the video. Let me. Okay. Where are we? All right, let me stop sharing my screen. So that's the end of the video. I think my last thoughts on that are just going to be that I think going forward, you're definitely going to see more red states do what Texas has done, or what because that was 3 months ago. So they did it 3 months ago. I'm going to do some research to see if any other states had done something like that. But definitely between now and let's say 2028, right? You're gonna see a lot of states do that, and especially if they don't do it before the 2024 election. If a alt-right candidate does not win the 2024 election, a lot of them are gonna do it after that, because they're really gonna be fed up with the political situation in the U.S. So, what I recommend to the audience is just to watch out for those kind of things, so that when you should make preparations to guard yourself against the violence and other craziness that could happen during the Civil War. And that could either be by finding a way to protect your community and your family in the US, or leaving the US altogether. And particularly if you're Black, I'd recommend just leaving the US. But if you don't leave the US, or if you're not Black, it could make sense to just try and figure out a way to protect yourself from this. But if you pay attention to these things, you can kind of know which way things are going to go and how fast they're going to get there, and you can make preparations accordingly. Yeah, that's all I got to say. And if nobody has any questions, and doesn't look like anybody does, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. But thank you guys so much again for joining me. I know this is kind of a late live stream, but thank you. And thank you for those of you who are going to be watching this on replay in the future. Again, please like the video and share it with people you know. Please also subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching me off of YouTube, please also subscribe or follow the channel or page, whatever the language they use on that platform is, whether it's Facebook, Rumble, Instagram, whatever, right? And then please also donate to support the channel. The link to donate is in the live chat, and it's also in the description of the video. That really helps me to keep it going. But anyway, I'm going to call it a night, try and get a little sleep. Thank you so much, and see you next week. Goodbye.